was Hughes, and you see Jeremy McGrath's helmet there. What a caricature.
Little neck cartoon guy on the back.
And, of course, as you see the series standings, he's that far ahead of Jeff Emig, the #2 rider in the points. There's a lot of riders having a chance to get a good look at that caricature. We're getting set now for the start of Moto 1 as they start revving up. Jimmy Button, number 100. Let's see who gets out in front first. Usually it's Jeremy. Jeremy gets the great start, the whole shot. Jeremy McGrath. He goes wide, though, and down in the first turn is Mike LaRocco.
Oh, I can't believe, what a bummer. This guy always either getting a bad start, and when he does get a good start or a good break, he still has to come from behind.
LaRocco, number 28. That's Damon Bradshaw with a great start. And Hughes in third.
Hughes right up in there. Looked like maybe Doug Henry, too, his local favorite.
Then Jimmy Button right after Henry.
You can see back in the pack how hard it is to see. It's not dust, it's just that dry sand flying everywhere. A big advantage to get back out front. Look how clean everything is up there.
Jeremy McGrath out of California, not used to the sand as a youngster, but surely rides extremely well now in the sand.
He sure does. It's I think a thing that requires a lot of timing. Just like the jumps do, the holes here get so big you can jump over them, use the back tire on the tops to hop a few more, and Jeremy's just so good at anything that requires timing and having to choose good lines.
What about weight distribution now? Would he change his style much? He likes to ride over those bars a lot.
Well, that's going to be enhanced here even more because you're standing quite a bit more. You'll see these guys sit down through the corners briefly, and as that berm starts to get rough towards the end, they'll stand right back up and get it back on the rear wheel. The object is really to try to keep the front wheel out of most of the holes. Look at Ryan Hughes there going for that double jump. I've never seen anyone do that, and he came up a little short but pulled it off.
It's McGrath out in front. Damon Bradshaw in second. Ryan Hughes in third, getting stronger and stronger with each appearance on the bike since he came back from that broken jaw that he suffered at the Supercross in Charlotte. Damon Bradshaw is coming back after missing 2 nationals because of injury, and he was really on a roll before he got injured.
Well, he sure looked good in Glen Helen. He was starting to pick up the pace, and he's still having to come from behind quite a bit. Today he's got a real opportunity here to take a look at Jeremy. He really hasn't gotten to see him. Even when he was out there, he really never had a chance to battle with Jeremy, but right here he's going to get that opportunity. But before he does get an opportunity to really focus on Jeremy, he's got a lot of pressure from Ryan Hughes right now. That'll be on his mind as well.
Single file through the squeeze. You know, there's not much elevation change here, but this track always is listed as one of the more difficult ones.
Well, there's no place to rest on this track. Everywhere you go, there's either a hole you got to wheelie over or try to miss. Look at that. Bradshaw getting bounced around coming down that hill. Look how soon he gets on the gas in that corner, though. That's another thing, trying to maintain your momentum. The sooner you get on the gas and power through like Bradshaw's doing right here, the easier it is. As soon as you let off the gas and start to apply the brakes, in which in most cases you don't even need to, as the sand soaks it all up, the front wheel wants to turn under, and it just takes energy all the way around.
McGrath in first place. Damon Bradshaw looking like the Bradshaw of old. Let's go to Davey Coombs, who's in the mechanics area.
How he's able to keep the pace so far? Well, actually, he's been the fastest guy on Friday, and then this morning in practice, he showed some good speed. So I felt that he can do it all. You know, since he's been here, he looks to be riding very fast. I guess this track is, very demanding, so that's going to be the key factor here.
Steve Butler confirming your comments, David, about how rugged this track can get and how difficult it is to ride, especially all out like these guys are going.
Bradshaw wide open down that hill, couldn't hang the inside, but he just maintained all that speed, carried it wide. Look, he didn't lose any time at all. As they came through that pit before the finish line, right back from commercial, he flew all the way up the hill, landed in a hole, and just kept on going. So his rhythm right now is perfect.
Jeremy McGrath and Bradshaw pulling away from Hughes. It's Doug Henry and Larry Ward, our top 5, and we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back now to Southwick, Moto number 1 of the 250s. And it's going to be a good one. Right now, you're looking at Damon Bradshaw, who is just hounding Jeremy McGrath.
He's riding good right now. His balance is right on as he came down the downhill around that right-hand berm. He went around the berm, the whole thing with his feet on the pegs. That takes incredible balance, so Bradshaw is on today.
Oh, Albertine hits the beach. He was right behind Ward and Emig. There goes Swink 23 and back of Button. Lawrence also getting in front of number 16. The Team Suzuki now trying to be restarted, gets back up and underway. Bad break for Albertine.
And a bad spot to fall, too, right in that main line. Kalos, who just went by, almost hit him. Albertine wasn't even aware of it, just had his head turned the other way, and he just about got taken out again.
I don't know. Many fans are very happy that Damon Bradshaw is making such a fine appearance. It kind of surprises me he's staying with this pace of Jeremy McGrath.
Now, he looks really good right now. And, like, again, as I pointed out, he just came out of that pit up the hill. He jumps all the way up the hill, lands in that hole, and uses that hole as another jump to jump a few more. So his lines and timing are really good. And he's got the opportunity of watching Jeremy to see what he's doing and maybe use some of that in, along with his own style.
Does Jeremy do anything different with someone that close to him this early in the race?
No, I don't think so. If he had somebody really showing him a wheel everywhere, he may just let the guy by and regroup, pick it, make a pass. But right now, Bradshaw's not doing that to him. He's there answering Jeremy every time he picks up the pace. Jeremy will continue to pick it up a little more and a little more, and eventually these guys drop off. But so far, Bradshaw's hanging tough, and really, to tell you the truth, that might make Jeremy a little nervous because as the race winds on and he's still there, that doesn't usually happen.
Jeff Emig goes down. So more and more riders are starting to hit the beach here on the sandy soil. Emig right back up and running. Emig coming off a couple of very good races.
Lawrence now with that inside line. It's been a popular place to pass. Larry Ward way out in no man's land just had Lawrence ride right around him.
Let's take some time now for our Suzuki flashback.
In this week's flashback, we're going to take a look at 1994, the 125 class, which was a great battle between the Honda teammates and former national champion Doug Henry and Steve Lamson. They both got out to the early hole shot with Henry having the edge, followed by his teammate Lamson and Jeff Emig. And Lamson right here over the big spectator jump, out jumps his teammate, takes over the inside line and the lead. It wasn't over yet. Doug Henry kept the pressure on, while further back in the pack, number 17, Lusk, almost took out a few spectators. He remounted and didn't lose any positions, but back out front, watch Henry around the outside, skimming the tops of the bumps, going for the lead, but Lamson hangs on to that inside line, protects it. Then on the downhill, Henry again with another aggressive move. Retakes the lead, but Lamson squares the corner, gets him back. Henry's got the inside line, but it doesn't work for long. Lamson squares it off again, thinks he's got the lead, but not quite. Henry again on the outside, wide open, passes his teammate, and goes on to take the moto win. It was a sweep for Henry in front of his hometown crowd at Southwick, moving him one step closer to the 94 title.
And it's good to see Henry back in action, number 15 on the Yamaha, as he's being pursued now by Ryan Hughes. Hughes had some problems earlier slipping down. Ryan Hughes trying to make a move on Doug Henry, but Doug not giving him the space.
That space is that inside line. You can see Ryan was content to just sort of ride down that hill and use it as kind of a breather because he didn't want to waste time taking a wider line. He gets a face full of sand right there.
The battle for third is on.
Pretty wild line there by Hughes. Although he squares that corner by the mechanics, you can do that right there and save about 50 feet of racetrack, but the whole key here on the sand is maintaining that momentum, and Henry had it around the outside.
Doug Henry, who had so much success here in the 125s, on way to 2 straight 125 national titles, trying to hold off Ryan Hughes.
That's not easy.
AMA Motocross is being brought to you by Dunlop. Simply the best for your bike. Art Ekman, David Bailey, and Davey Coombs from Southwick, Massachusetts. First moto for the 250s, and we're looking right now at Doug Henry holding down third. Oh, Albertine is down again, this time on the uphill. This is the second crash for Greg Albertine.
I'm going to assume he's already been there for about 30 seconds, trying to bump start the bike. Now he's going backwards on the track. I guess it's okay in this situation. There's an AMA official to the right. You know, while Jeremy's breaking records in the 250 class and the Supercross with most wins in a single season, I think Albertine may be breaking that record for the most crashes, Art.
Albertine trying to get back in the mix. I've got to agree with you.
He almost takes out that guy as he comes by. I'm sure who that was, but Henry is actually losing a little time now to Hughes.
While McGrath is holding off Bradshaw, Henry trying to hold off Ryan Hughes, and Ryan Hughes makes the move on him into third. Great move. Davey Coombs, in his never-ending search for knowledge, is down in the mechanics area.
Hey, we saw on that board you wrote corner speed. What are you trying to tell Doug?
Well, the biggest problem in sand is that those guys will try to square off corners, and you got to just keep them. You got to kind of round them off as well as you can. Keep your speed up, and hopefully you might be able to gain some ground or lose somebody.
Back to the action, Larry Ward, number 6. And Jeff Emig. Emig, the winner of the overall here last year. In fact, it was his first 250 overall victory.
The first win of his career on a 250 and his only win last season. And this year he's already picked up a win at Mount Morris. And today it's going to be tough for him to repeat, considering he already went down. He's a little bit out of the hunt.
I'll never forget last year. It was sweltering heat. Interviewing him at the end of the race, they poured water in his back, and the steam just rose off his back like a steam engine. Jimmy Button flying by us there.
You don't leave this racetrack after a day of racing without being exhausted. You got cramps. You know, you're chafed in spots because of the sand. You're completely spent. And I've raced here 6 times, and I don't remember a single time that I left here when I wasn't just beat. Even my first time I came here when my bike seized, I didn't get to race the whole race. I was still tired from going through qualifiers.
Emig now in 6th. Jimmy Button has passed Ward for 7th place, as you see that right here. Jimmy Button trying to get back into the flow that took him to Team Suzuki and close to a 125 Supercross championship.
He's doing pretty good, too. He looked good indoors this year at times, and he's doing pretty good outdoors, but I think it really comes down to getting good starts consistently. Nobody that's gotten bad starts has been able to really catch up very well this season because the competition is so deep.
Boy, this track is really getting chewed up as Hughes fishtails in 3rd place.
You can see they're using the very edge of the racetrack. They're riding up to the very edge of the grass if they can find it. If there's no banners there, these guys are sneaky. They'll go and ride through where the spectators stand if it's smoother.
LaRocco Sr., Mike LaRocco's mechanic. 9 minutes to go on the signboard as number 8 Mike LaRocco, after falling down early, is in 8th position.
That's about how far it feels like you're behind the leaders when you go down to the first corner, too. 9 minutes behind. It's so frustrating not get a good start. Look at that. LaRocco goes for the double jump. It's definitely faster to get over those jumps, but you're forced into taking that outside line. And right then, that lapper was in his way. He wasn't able to really keep up his speed.
So Jimmy Button holding on to 7th right in front of the Team Suzuki rider.
The bottom of that pit right there has got a big whoop-de-doo in the bottom, and it just G-forces you out right there.
LaRocco picking the most popular place to pass on this track, gets in front of Jimmy Button despite the lapper.
Actually kind of maybe helped out a little bit there, but you can see LaRocco, he was poised to take that inside line and make that pass regardless of what happened through the corner. And it's obviously got a fast pace. It's just too bad he went down the first corner. He may be able to challenge this guy.
Boy, some of those ruts are looking like landfills right now.
They're deep. They're real deep. You hear Jeremy using that clutch. You can hear him just really building the RPMs up. You typically want to stay in maybe 3rd gear through some of those long sweepers, and if you use the clutch, you can keep the engine pulling.
McGrath certainly can't afford a mistake right now, but he is pulling a little more space on Damon Bradshaw as Hughes and Henry battle it out for 3rd still.
In the points, they had this big kind of a double jump. He was trying to jump past this bump at the bottom. He landed right in it, broke the front wheel, DNF'd. That allowed Donnie Hansen to take that title. Big mistake by Johnson, but he learned his lesson and went on and won a few more titles.
Jeff Emig right now here at Southwick trying to get around Phil Lawrence, last year's Privateer of the Year in the 250 ranks.
Still this year having some pretty good motos. Probably wishes he could switch bikes with Emig right here. Emig squaring it off, looking for that inside line.
Jeff Emig with 1 win on the season, 4 second places, moves ahead of Lawrence. One of his seconds was last week.
Well, Jeremy was riding real well last week. I think the problem was that I wasn't riding up to my potential. I think that I was riding good, but I didn't put out the effort that I needed to win the race last week. And I think I rode at about 80 or 90, 85, 90%. And McGrath rode at about 110. So I think that's where the difference was. And And that's what I'm going to try to change this weekend. Is I'm going to try to ride the race, you know, like 100, 110%. And I think that if I do that, that I can beat him.
No, Art, I don't mean to put Jeff down in any way. I really don't. I hope this isn't what it sounds like, but it's that kind of thinking that allows Jeremy to win. I mean, when do you ride at 85%? You know, unless you know the race is going to be 3 hours long and you have to pace yourself. These guys should be in good enough shape to ride 100% all the time, and I know that's what Jeremy's doing out there, and it's no wonder he wins if Emmig's only putting in 80 or 85.
That might be the reason Emmig's in 5th right now as Jeremy McGrath starts to pull more time on Damon Bradshaw, the runner-up. We'll be back with more. Here in Moto 1 of the 250 action, Jeremy McGrath way out in front. And he's deserved it well after early challenges from Damon Bradshaw. In fact, more than an early challenge. Damon hung with him quite a while, David.
He sure did. He looked the best I've seen him look in a long time on this rough track. He was going fast, and he wasn't out of control at all. He was right there, but once again, the white flag, Jeremy in control of it.
This is really our final battle right now as Emig tries to catch up with Doug Henry. Emig number 2, Henry number 15.
Doug hitting a bump wrong coming out of that pit. Did a little panic rev, as they call it sometimes. In the back end kicks, you have a tendency to hold it wide open. Just a natural reaction, I guess. Emig looking down the inside there. He's got enough pressure, and he's close enough to Henry to make a pass in the final lap.
They're in 4th and 5th positions right now, and moving up a notch could mean a lot for Jeff Emig, number 2, with another moto to come.
Henry, every lap down that straightaway, hits that same bump, jumps against that wall there as he sets himself up for the corner. But right now, a good move by that lapper to get out of the way of these guys, not affect the outcome.
That was a very polite, sportsmanlike move now as Jeff Emig still looking for an opportunity. Jeremy McGrath, his opportunity, the only one left, is to pick up the checkered flag.
Guy's phenomenal. They're watching him go through these tight corners. He just gets on the gas so early. He has great balance. His mechanic and his dad watching.
This would be his 10th moto victory. He's only lost 1 moto on the season so far, and that was the opening moto at Mount Morris where he took a 5th. Jeremy McGrath acknowledging the fans as he comes around to the final turn before spotting that checkered flag. Jeremy McGrath, the wheelie, and another victory for the tremendous champion. And while Jeremy pulls into the interview area, Damon Bradshaw will be coming over for 2nd place. Here's the only battle left. Jeff Emig tried to cut in front. Whoa, a foot off the peg there for Henry. Oh, and Emig goes down. Well, that's been a dangerous area all day long. We've seen at least a half-dozen riders go down right before that double.
Lawrence is going to go by as well, pick up that spot he lost a little earlier. So it was just an aggressive move for Emig to try to get around Doug Henry. Henry took a wild line to the outside, and their lines just came together.
So Henry nails down 4th behind Ryan Hughes. Phil Lawrence will move into the 5th spot. Of course, the checkers went to Jeremy. The bottom 5 of the top 10, Emig, Button, Albertine, LaRocco, and Ward. Let's go to Davey.
Did it surprise you that Bradshaw stayed close to you for that long?
Yeah, you know, it didn't surprise me because he can ride fast at times right now, and, you know, it doesn't seem like he's training or anything like that because he just fades off like that, but it'll show next moto for sure.
Finally, how'd your conditioning feel about 30-minute mark or so?
Yeah, I felt really good. They put on the board 2 more laps to go, and then I came around, it was no 2-lap board, so, you know, I was prepared for the white flag that 1 lap, but I kind of just cruised around and waited for the checkered.
Well, congratulations on another moto win.
Thanks a lot.
Nevertheless, it was the best showing after coming back from retirement in the outdoor season for this young man, Damon Bradshaw, and Davey Coombs is moving his way over to Damon at this moment.
Damon, I gotta say, that's probably your best ride since Daytona this year.
Yeah, it was. You know, I just got off to a good start, and I tried to hang there as long as I could. I figured if I could go that speed for a little while, I could get enough lead, so when I got a little lazy in the end, I'd be all right, and, you know, it worked out good like that.
Yeah, McGrath even said he expressed a little bit of surprise and how well you stayed with him for a long time in the moto, but he said the same thing. He said you might get tired toward the end.
Yeah, I kind of, you know, thought that I would. I just went as long as I could until I could hold on, and then I said I better slow down a little bit or I may fall down. So, you know, that's what I did, and luckily it worked out. You know, a good start goes a long ways in this stuff.
Yeah. Did it give you a little motivation to see all these old school Southwick fans still out there giving you the go-ahead and everything?
Yeah, it was, you know, it made me feel good, and, you know, it also made me feel good to hang there as long as I could. You know, I know I can go, you know, his speed, but I can't go that long yet, you know, and being hurt, I couldn't ride. So, but all in all, it was good.
There they are, probably the winningest crew ever. Cliff White, Skip Norfolk, Wes McCoy. Cliff's making sure that Jeremy's bike didn't suck any sand.
Well, that was one of Skip's better tips.
Yeah, that was an excellent, everything about it. Skip knows how to get off the starting line. I'm sure he's shared all that with Jeremy.
And once again, we'll see if Jeremy gets the whole shot. He got the whole shot in the first moto. The gate is dropped, and Emig with a pretty good start. Swink with a good start. Jeremy McGrath is right there, #1 out in front. Whoa, Emig jumps in front of him. Hughes with a good start as well is right next to Jeremy McGrath out front.
Looked like Jeff went out of his way to make sure he cut across in front of Jeremy. Just did it again right there, and Jeremy hates that. I can tell you, he hates it. And that'll motivate him to get around Emig and just run away and hide.
Emig, McGrath in that order. And Swink is in third, #23. Hughes is in fourth, #5. Then you've got Lawrence, Henry, LaRocco, Button.
Now, what's LaRocco? Maybe 9th, 10th? And we're sitting here thinking, well, that's a pretty good start for LaRocco. What a shame.
And, of course, especially after going down right after the starting gate in turn 1 in moto #1, LaRocco had more fighting from behind than he could handle, really.
Now, to think that where he's at right now is a decent start. Everyone in the pit area at Suzuki's going, all right, he's up there this time. I mean, it's, gosh, if the guy could just get the starts that he needs on these tougher tracks like this, I think he really can do some damage to get up there and win motos, but you can't do it from that far behind.
Jeff Emig is sailing in first place. Here was the overall winner last year at Southwick. Can he hold off Jeremy McGrath?
Well, last year in the first moto, he hole shotted and led wire to wire. So, you know, here he's got the hole shot again in the second moto, same like he did last year, but wasn't able to hang on to it. In fact, last year he just kind of lost his concentration. His lines weren't coming together. He made a lot of mistakes, and then he recovered with a few guys making it easier for him by crashing to take the overall.
Of course, Emig known as the streak breaker as we look back at Brian Swink in third position, breaking the streak of Jeremy McGrath in the Supercross, and also with a win at Mount Morris with a second and third to take the overall to break Jeremy's string of 3 straight to start the season.
Jeremy's right there, though. Got a little bit of a lead over Swink already. Phil Lawrence hanging in there pretty tough. A decent first moto. Lawrence has been there. And I think Lawrence is in pretty good shape, too. I know he trains pretty hard, and that's really going to show today.
After 2 pretty consistent years, especially a nice Supercross season, do you think Phil Lawrence deserves a look from the factories?
Oh, I know he does deserve a look, and I've probably said it about half a dozen times. So it gets around Ryan Hughes right there. That was a smart line. He took the outside. It's a little quicker. And if you get up alongside the guy, you're on the inside heading into the corner, and he just has to give up.
Boy, if you thought this track was rough in the first moto, take a look at the second moto. My gosh, the pegs are buried.
You just get sick and tired of hitting bumps going around the racetrack. Between motos, you've got to get your mind ready to go out there and hit that rough stuff.
Emig, our leader, but McGrath is in striking distance. Welcome back, Art Ekman, David Bailey, and Davey Coombs from Southwick, Massachusetts. Second moto of the 250s, and it's Jeremy McGrath trailing Jeff Emig. Emig doing a good job holding out in front, but now Jeremy has picked up the pace a little bit. Looks like he's looking for spots, accelerating through this sand.
You know, typically what happens, as I've noticed throughout the years, is when Emig's got a lot of pressure from Jeremy like this, he starts riding Jeremy's race. He really starts to do a lot to try to block Jeremy and take away the best lines. He's trying to anticipate any place, whatever Jeremy might be thinking, and cover those moves. And eventually, that ends up to beat him, and Jeremy's the one that comes out on top. Jeremy's a little smarter than that, but to see how it happens today, I think of the two, Jeremy's probably in better shape.
Boy, as this second moto is well underway, it's amazing the way they go through that finish line stretch and all of those ruts and the fishtailing that goes on and still maintain some type of control.
Well, this is one of the roughest tracks of the year, and it takes a man to win on this track. Physically and mentally, you've got to be so tough. That's why Bob Hanna loved it here so much. There's no man-made stuff. There's no supercross sections. It's just rough. And it gets rougher and rougher all day. Look at that. Both those guys hitting that bad hole right there in the shadows. It'll keep you on your toes. This track will beat you if you don't come here ready.
Jeff Emig, Jeremy McGrath. Still a great battle here in moto number 2. Jeremy ran away from Damon Bradshaw, and having problems after going down is Ryan Hughes, and he is very frustrated. He was running pretty good today.
Yeah, he sure was, and I think that was near that double jump section, at least it looked like to me. He was on the opposite side of the racetrack, but I would be inclined to think he tried to go for that double and blew it.
Lawrence, Albertine, number 13 and 16, and Mike LaRocco.
Both the Suzuki guys tucking that corner nice and tight. That big main line berm has got shoved about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 feet wider than it was in the first moto, and it just doesn't pay off to go all the way out there and hit it.
Into the squeeze section now as Albertine puts a big roost of sand through the air.
That was important coming out of that corner, getting up that hill, as it is to get off that concrete starting gate. You get a lot of wheel spin coming out of that gate, and hooking up is so important, and it is coming out of that corner too to head up the hill.
I would imagine the mechanics certainly look for different tire pressures as well as different configurations for a track like this.
Well, typically you just use more what they call a sand tire, just a lot of space between the knobs, and you don't have any problems. There's no rocks. Just in that one corner, the only corner on the whole racetrack, you can usually miss those if you ride a good line.
I don't know if I'd be looking for rocks, though, going that fast.
You'd be surprised, because you're cruising along in the sand, which is fairly giving, and all of a sudden you hit a rock, and they're about the size of baseballs. They dig up throughout the day. They do a good job to pick them up. That one corner always digs them up. If you hit one, you'll know it.
Places like Unadilla, it's put people out for the season. Mike Kudrowski, I remember one year, broke the back of his hand with a flying rock.
Yeah, these don't fly. They just stay there, and when you hit them, you get out of control. But right now, still, Emig is holding a decent lead. It's enough of a lead over Jeremy right now where he doesn't have to ride that defensive, but he's on his mind, I can tell you that. Jeremy's starting to copy the lines a little bit of Jeff. At least through that section he was. And there's the mechanic standing side by side.
Emig's mechanic questioning him. Do you really want it? He's trying to get him to focus out front.
Jeremy wants it. He's patient, though. Very patient.
Jeremy McGrath, side by side. Who gives way? Jeremy gets the best line through the squeeze.
Well, he positioned that way back coming out of the mechanics area corner. He just put himself to the inside and stayed there all the way down the straightaway through the corner. Knew eventually when they got to that squeeze, if he was close enough, he'd have the line, and it worked out.
Used to be said Jeremy would win because he gets out in front and nobody can catch him. But right there, I think he showed his toughness.
I think so, too. I mean, this is one of the roughest tracks of the season, and the way he hopped over that bump right there, I mean, he's just saving himself so much energy by riding smarter lines. Emig, you can see, I mean, that's a berm he's riding through. This berm is turned into like the Talladega banking just about. And throughout the day, it gets so high, and they jump over these holes through the berms. That plateau right there is about the only place in the whole racetrack to rest.
2 seasons ago, it seemed like at the end of the season, a light bulb just went on in Jeremy's mind about outdoors and how to battle through ruts and take the best lines when you could afford to. But sometimes you just can't afford to take a better line. You've got to blast through.
Right. Well, it's having the confidence in your fitness to be able to ride the fastest lines, regardless of if it's rough or not. And Jeremy upped the ante with his physical health and fitness and the confidence, everything that goes with that, just really enhanced his ability to go out and win no matter what the conditions. And he got tired of people saying that he wasn't a complete rider. Now I don't think he can say that.
And of course, he gives a lot of credit to Gary Semix, his trainer, as we take a look at Mike LaRocco getting in front of Brian Swink. LaRocco now with a much better moto here in the second round.
Working his way up through the field, but you know, it's unfortunate he has to do that. It'd be nice if he started out front.
Mike LaRocco moves into third in front of Brian Swink. Jeremy McGrath and Emig still out 1 and 2. Art Ekman, David Bailey, Davey Coombs from Southwick. There's Phil Lawrence, number 13, out of the Great Western team, an independent team. Here's Greg Albertine. Albertine starting to put some pressure now on Brian Swink for 4th place.
Not a bad ride. If you keep it on 2 wheels, you should be able to get it. He's been gaining on him little by little. And it looks to me like he's just riding a little bit better. Just took the pressure off of himself, and it actually looks like he's not trying as hard, which is a lot of times just a symbol of being in the flow and not fighting the motorcycle in the racetrack.
Suzuki not expecting Greg Albertine to be a great supercross rider. but also I think they expected more from the outdoor season.
That's going to take him a little while to learn it. He's, you know, look at the Americans that have gone to Europe. I mean, geez, it took Brad Lackey 11 years to win a title. You know, it takes a lot of adjusting. You don't know where to practice, where to live, where the best restaurants are. And you American riders are a little different. I mean, there's so many things. I've talked to him about it before. And once he gets that all under control and stops falling down, he'll be a real threat.
Ian Harrison riding on the mechanics board to be smooth and make sure you take the right lines. Getting up into the rear tire now of Brian Swink, number 23. Albertine looking for the spot to get by. Had a little crunch there on the handlebars. He goes wide. Greg Albertine, good angle now to take number 23 and move into a good spot. Looks back. What's going on?
Well, he was in a kind of a weird place where if he was to gas it out into the berm, he thought Swink could square it. He just wanted to make sure he covered that move.
Three-time GP World Champion has not experienced similar success here in America.
Well, the tracks on the outdoor nationals are definitely slightly slower than the World Grand Prix tracks. You know, so that has taken a bit of adjusting to get used to it. And you know, coming to a different country, you're racing against totally different riders, and you know, you got to learn to think how these riders actually work. You know, some guys put a fast pace in the end of the race, some guys in the beginning, and you know, some guys will take you out, some guys won't. So you have to learn each particular rider's characteristics, and it's very different from the GPs. You know, there's no bumping, and it's not really an aggressive riding style that, you know, if you bump somebody, they complain. Whereas here, that is one big thing I've had to learn. You know, there's no free luncheons out there. You leave a slight gap and somebody's going to take it and put you on the ground. And, you know, I'm learning that slowly.
Well, it is a learning process when you take such a drastic change. But right now, Greg Albertine has done a nice job here in Moto 2. Here's Jeff Emig. Emig in second place now, a rather lonely second as Jeremy McGrath starts to put some big time between him and the second place rider.
Emig still using the left side, dropping into that pit before the finish line. As he comes out, he hits one of those bigger bumps and he gets a lot of air, and it puts him right back to the outside line. He does that every lap, but when he made the pass a little earlier, got all that air time, I thought that was an accident, but actually one of the lines he chooses to use every time.
Even though Jeff Emig has only one win on the overall this season, this would be his 5th second place out of 6 races. Jeff Emig holding his own in second place. Now, in third place, right behind Emig, is Mike LaRocco, number 8. We see him here now on the Suzuki.
Looking pretty good, too. He's got a lot of strength, and it looks like he's still riding really aggressive. You know, unfortunately, I mean, I keep saying this all the time, but shoot, you know, he's coming from behind every week. Mount Morris, he finally got good starts both motos, and he found himself in a position to win the overall. Right. He could hang off, or hold off, rather, Jeremy McGrath, and he couldn't do it. Actually
passed McGrath in the first moto that day, but couldn't hold off. Took a second place in that moto, a third in the next for the second overall. A third overall in his last race at Budds Creek. So it appears that Mike LaRocco is putting some nice things together here before the end of the season. And he's one of the few riders that has one more year remaining on his contract. There's going to be a lot of negotiating going on this year.
And you got to be wondering, too, and I in no way saying that his career is over, but it's probably closer to the end than it is to the beginning. And, you know, I wonder much longer he plans on racing. Maybe another year on the Suzuki will be about all there is for Mike LaRocco.
The battle for 5th right now is on. Brian Swink, 23, trying to catch up with the guy in that spot, Doug Henry. And if Doug Henry should finish in his position, David, he'd have 3rd overall, his first podium of the year.
Well, he keeps getting better and better, but he's got company right now. Look at this, Swink and Lawrence. Lawrence has ridden pretty good today. And Swink, too. Swink with a decent start in this moto. Stayed up there pretty good, but this is where these guys really get tired. The toughest will prevail out of this battle.
The guys are always tired after the first competitive moto, and then they go through the exhilaration of the start of the second moto. What's it like right now? What's burning inside? What's telling them this is really tough?
Everything. The heat. Lawrence makes the move around Swink, and that feels good when you can get up and pass somebody. At least you feel like you're moving forward and you got something to be excited about. You're gaining time, but typically towards the end of the second moto at Southwick, at least from my memories, you go to put your leg out for a corner and you got to get it back on the peg real quick because it's cramping. Your fingers start to cramp. You can't get your fingers open to go out and use the levers at times because they're cramping up, especially if you didn't drink enough or didn't eat the right stuff. But everything is bothering you. You're just tired all over, and you really feel it when you stop.
How long does it take you to recover from a race like this?
The first 2 days of the week, if you get out and get in like a couple of half-hour, 45-minute runs and ride a little bit, you usually feel pretty good by Wednesday.
Wow. Phil Lawrence, a nice ride for this independent team rider who's had an excellent season. Lawrence currently in 6th position. Looks like he might be able to nail that down as Swink is fading back behind him.
And Lawrence is pretty tall, and that typically is an advantage on a track that's sandy like this, because your body has to soak up all the bumps, just like a downhill skier like doing the moguls. You can see their legs are just shock absorbers, and for Lawrence, he's got long travel.
He looks like he's putting a lot of seat time in there, too, sitting back. Now he stands up as he tries to approach Doug Henry. Henry battling it out with a lapper there, giving an advantage, I think, to Phil Lawrence and catching up as they go up to the squeeze. Henry inside, Lawrence outside. It's interesting to see how those two lines sophisticated all of a sudden.
Well, I think people just got tired of following somebody through that inside line, and the squeeze, as you call it, Art, they get tired of it. So they created a new one, and now they've got a couple of pretty good lines through there. And it's hard to know what to do if you're the guy in front, like Henry was through there, if you should take the inside or the outside. Henry in 5th position. Lawrence wants 5th. Henry wants a podium appearance. He's got to hold on to it to make it. Right now, it's just survival. You're pretty tired. And for Lawrence, you're thinking, well, this isn't bad. I got nothing to lose, really, and maybe I can pick up a spot. But for Henry, you're just going, please, give me the white flag. McGrath, Emig, Larocco, Albertine, and then Henry on his native track. We'll be back with the finish of the 250s in a moment. Action in the second moto of the 250s winding down as Phil Lawrence still trying to catch up with Doug Henry and get the right opportunity to make a pass on this very difficult Southwick track. They're coming to the section where a lot of passes have been made. If Lawrence was a little closer, maybe he could get down and steal that inside line away from Henry. But Henry riding here enough, winning here, back-to-back motos, I think a couple years on the 125. He knows where those lines are. He's not going to give anything to Lawrence. He's going to have to earn it. One more lap remaining, less than a lap, actually, as they went over the finish line with the white flag waving. Doug Henry holding off Phil Lawrence. Won't it be nice to go back to the hospital and say, Stacy, is it a girl or a boy? And I got 3rd. You can see how much of the racetrack they're using now, too, as they come over that hill just before the end of this section. They're all the way out against the banners. The track's about 50 feet wide right there, and they're all the way against the edge. Oh, look at those ruts. Yeah, you can imagine what it looks like from the other side coming up that hill. You got to have the balance to stay in that rut as you're climbing the hill. Here's Jeremy McGrath. It's been a long time since we checked in with Jeremy on the final lap, though. We'll pick him up as he's had a ride in the park on Sunday. You can see a section on the other side of the racetrack going the other way. There's 4 berms going around the corner, and it's just like a rut, really. You got to stay in that line all the way around the racetrack. Right now, Jeremy, I don't think he cares what line he's in. He can coast home from here. You can go too slow on this track, any sandy track. Getting a lot of cheers from the crowd. Looks like he's going to put together another sweep. Well, it's incredible. Not only the Supercross record, but it appears he's even going to greater heights in the sport, the tougher sport of motocross. A tired Jeremy McGrath, I'm sure, even though it was an easy victory, as he comes over Skip Norfolk, his mechanic, probably walking to the interview area to hold up his bike, because I know Jeremy will be winded. McGrath, the sweep on the afternoon as we take a look at the Moto2 results. Larocco at 3rd, Albertine into 4th. Bradshaw disappointing 10th after the second in the first moto. Let's go to Davey.
Jeremy, way to do it, 1-1. Well, had to follow him for a while there. He got inside of me on the start. I had a good start, but I think I faded a little wide. And shoot, he was tough, you know. I couldn't get around him for a while. I was checking his lines and making sure I had a couple lines. You know, I had one line that I thought was a little bit quicker, and that's where I tried to press and get really close to him and eventually go by him.
Now, when did you finally pass him? Down here at the bottom of the long downhill?
Yeah, I passed him going over the jump, kind of pulled up beside him, and then passed him just about going in the frog pond. So it was a clean pass. There was no bumping and banging. It was good. He tried to go around the outside and get on the inside of me, but I came down and just had him.
Yeah. So now you've won on the hard stuff, you won on the dry stuff, you win in the sand. What's it going to take to beat you?
I don't know. I'm having a great time, and I don't know. I think it's confusing some of these guys out there. So, I mean, Skip and I are working really hard, and Honda, and you know, we do what we need to do during the week and come out and put a show on the weekend.
All right. Well, congratulations on your 5th win this year.
Thanks.
Many times overlooked, that conditioning during